The vast emptiness of space stretched out before the Relentless, a human warship that had seen better days. Its hull was scarred from asteroid impacts and minor skirmishes, giving it the appearance of a battle-hardened veteran rather than the sleek vessels depicted in old Earth entertainment. Commander Jack stood on the bridge, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of control panels. He was not a particularly tall man, but his presence commanded respect from the crew that had served under him for the past 5 years. "Sir, we're picking up an unusual signal at coordinates 227 Mark 43, reported Tom, the sensor officer. His fingers danced across the screen as he tried to clarify the reading. Jack straightened his uniform and walked over to Tom's station. "Unknown origin?" "Yes, sir. Nothing like this in our database." "It's big. Really big." The commander nodded, slowly, stroking his short beard. "Alert status yellow. I want all systems ready, but no weapons hot. We're explorers first, remember that." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had ventured farther from Earth than any previous human expedition, mapping the outer regions of what humans called the Orion Arm. First contact protocols had been drilled into them countless times, though none had expected to actually use them. "Visual range in 30 seconds, announced Mary from the helm. Her voice was steady, but Jack noted the slight tremble in her hands. "Put it on the main screen when ready," Jack ordered, returning to his command chair. When the image appeared, a collective gasp swept across the bridge. The alien vessel was enormous, at least 5 times the size of the Relentless. Its design defied human engineering logic, with sweeping curves and structures that seemed to flow like liquid metal. Soft blue lights pulsed along its surface in hypnotic patterns. "Are they scanning us?" Jack asked. "Yes, sir. Fairly intense scans, and they're going right through our outer shields like they weren't even there," replied Susan, the defensive systems officer. "Should I strengthen our countermeasures?" Jack shook his head. "No, let them look. We have nothing to hide." The communications panel suddenly lit up. "Sir, they're transmitting some kind of visual signal. I think they want to talk," said Lisa, her eyes wide with excitement. "Put it through." The main screen flickered, and the image of the alien ship was replaced by a creature that made several crew members step back involuntarily. The alien had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on a slender, elongated head. Its skin was pale green with iridescent patterns that shifted as it moved. Behind it stood several similar beings, though their coloration varied slightly. "I am Lord Krill of the Vex Confederation," the alien announced in surprisingly good English. "Your primitive communication devices were simple to decode. Who speaks for your vessel?" Jack stepped forward. "I am Commander Jack Wilson of the Earthship Relentless. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship." The alien's upper eyes narrowed while the lower pair seemed to scan Jack from head to toe. "How quaint. Another oxygen-breathing bipedal species. The galaxy seems to produce your kind with disappointing regularity." Jack maintained his diplomatic smile despite the insult. "We find diversity to be one of the universe's greatest strengths, Lord Krill." "Diversity?" The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "There is nothing diverse about weakness, Commander. Your species appears particularly fragile." On the bridge, Jack felt his crew tensing. He gave them a subtle hand signal to stay calm. "Appearances can be deceiving," Jack replied evenly. "We would welcome the opportunity to learn about the Vex Confederation and share information about humanity." Lord Krill's head tilted slightly. "Your vessel is interesting. Crude, but interesting. Our scans indicate unusual environmental conditions aboard your ship. Quite harsh, actually. Is this compensation for your biological limitations?" Jack exchanged a quick glance with his science officer, who looked equally confused. The Relentless was running on standard life support settings. Comfortable, by human standards. "Our ship is maintained at conditions suitable for human life," Jack explained carefully. "Suitable?" Lord Krill seemed genuinely surprised. "Then your homeworld must be a miserable place indeed." "No matter. The Vex Confederation is always in need of resource-rich planets and labor species." The implication was clear, and Jack felt a Chill run down his spine. I believe there's been a misunderstanding. We're not here to offer our services or our world. We're explorers and diplomats. How amusing, Lord Krill said, his tone dismissive. Your species clearly doesn't understand its place in the galactic hierarchy. Perhaps a demonstration is in order. The screen split to show the alien vessel's exterior again. A small section of its hull began to glow with intense energy. Sir, Susan called out urgently. They're charging some kind of weapon system. Jack remained outwardly calm. Lord Krill, there's no need for hostilities. This is merely an educational moment, Commander, the alien interrupted. A small taste of Vex power. The target will be an uninhabited moon in your vicinity. Watch and learn. A beam of purple energy lanced out from the Vex ship, striking a small moon orbiting a nearby gas giant. The surface of the moon bubbled and melted under the intense heat, leaving a crater visible even from their distance. Impressive technology, Jack acknowledged, carefully keeping any trace of fear from his voice. But I must remind you that humanity seeks peaceful relations. Peace is for equals, Commander. The Vex Confederation requires two things from your species: submission and resources. You may choose the order in which you provide them. Jack took a deep breath. I'm afraid I can't agree to those terms, Lord Krill. Perhaps we should continue this discussion after both sides have had time to consider a mutually beneficial relationship. The alien's four eyes blinked in sequence. You misunderstand, human. This wasn't a negotiation. He turned to one of his subordinates. Prepare a boarding party. I wish to inspect this vessel personally. Before Jack could protest, the transmission ended. Battle stations, Jack ordered quietly. But no aggressive moves. Defensive posture only. Sir, Tom called out. They're sending a small craft toward us. 6 life forms aboard. Jack nodded. Let them come. Security teams to Docking Bay 3, non-lethal measures only. I want to show our visitors some human hospitality. As the crew rushed to prepare, Jack looked out at the massive alien vessel. The Vex clearly thought humans were weak, primitive, creatures not worth respecting. They had based this assumption on scans and a brief conversation. Soon they would meet humans face to face. Soon they would step aboard a human vessel. And soon, Jack suspected, they would learn their first lesson about humanity. The security team assembled in Docking Bay 3 stood at attention, their non-lethal weapons holstered but ready. Lieutenant Ben, a stocky man with close-cropped hair, paced in front of his squad while they waited for the alien shuttle to dock. Remember, Ben instructed his team, these visitors have already shown they don't think much of us. But the commander wants this peaceful if possible. No heroics unless absolutely necessary. The intercom crackled to life with Commander Jack's voice. Lieutenant, the Vex shuttle is on final approach. Their technology seems to be compatible with our docking systems. Stand by. Copy that, sir, Ben replied, then turned to Mike, the ship's chief engineer who had joined them. Any specific technical concerns I should know about? Mike shrugged. Their ship makes ours look like a child's toy, but that doesn't mean they'll understand our systems. Just keep them away from critical areas. A low rumble vibrated through the deck plates as the alien shuttle made contact with the Relentless. The airlock cycled, pressure equalized, and the inner doors slowly slid open. The first alien that stepped through was unmistakably Lord Krill. In person, he was taller than he had appeared on screen, nearly 7 feet of slender, graceful limbs. Behind him followed 5 others of his kind, each wearing what appeared to be environmental suits with transparent helmets. What happened next surprised everyone. As soon as the aliens fully entered the docking bay, they visibly struggled. Lord E. Krill's slender frame seemed to bend under an invisible weight, his movements becoming labored. The others fared no better, their steps faltering. What trickery is this? Lord Krill demanded, his voice strained. Ben glanced at Mike, confused. Sir, we haven't done anything. Lord Krill's 4 eyes blinked rapidly as he struggled to stand, upright. You've increased the gravitational field. A primitive, but effective defense. Mike stepped forward. There's no gravitational manipulation in this section, sir. The Relentless maintains Earth standard gravity throughout, approximately 1 g. Impossible, hissed one of the other aliens. This is at least triple our homeworld's gravity. Realization dawned on Ben's face. He looked at the struggling aliens, with new understanding. Their homeworld must have significantly lower gravity than Earth. What humans considered normal was, to them, crushingly heavy. Lord Krill raised a device that resembled a small tablet. Your atmosphere. It's dense and corrosive. Standard Earth atmosphere, Mike explained, now fascinated. 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, trace gases. Nothing corrosive about it. Oxygen at this concentration is toxic to many species, gasped Lord Krill. He motioned to his companions. Remain in your environmental suits. Commander Jack's voice came through the intercom again. Lieutenant, is everything all right down there? Yes, sir, Ben replied, though our guests seem to be having some adjustment issues to our ship's standard environment. I'll be right down, Jack responded. While they waited, Lord Krill and his party adjusted somewhat to the gravity, though their movements remained slow and deliberate. They scanned the docking bay with their devices, exchanging concerned glances. The temperature, one of them noted. It's extremely elevated. Ben checked the nearest environmental control panel. 21 degrees Celsius, standard comfort setting. Your species considers this comfortable? Lord Krill asked incredulously. This would be considered dangerously hot on our homeworld. Before Ben could respond, Commander Jack entered the docking bay. He walked confidently toward the aliens, extending his hand in the universal gesture of greeting that the diplomatic corps had suggested. Lord Krill, welcome aboard the Relentless, Jack said warmly. The alien didn't take Jack's hand either, not understanding the gesture or choosing to ignore it. Your hospitality leaves much to be desired, Commander. These conditions are barely tolerable. Jack lowered his hand. I apologize if you're uncomfortable. We had no information about your environmental preferences. We can adjust this section's settings if you'd like. No, Lord Krill said sharply. I wish to see how your crew operates in these conditions. It will be informative. Jack nodded. As you wish. Would you like a tour of non-restricted areas? Lord Krill agreed, and the strange procession began moving through the ship. The aliens moved awkwardly, clearly struggling with each step. Jack maintained a slower pace out of courtesy, though he made no comment about their difficulty. In the mess hall, they found several off-duty crew members eating lunch. The aliens watched in what appeared to be horror as the humans drank water that was to the Vex nearly boiling hot. Your crew consumes heated liquid? Lord Krill asked. Coffee, Jack explained. A mild stimulant. Would you care to try some? Certainly not, Lord Krill replied, his voice carrying a note of disgust. As they continued through the ship, passing the gymnasium where crew members were lifting weights, the aliens stopped to observe. A female crew member was bench pressing, what the Vex clearly considered an enormous amount of weight. Your females are also warriors? One of the alien party asked. Everyone on this ship is both crew and potentially a fighter if needed, Jack explained. We don't differentiate combat roles by gender. The aliens exchanged meaningful glances that Jack couldn't interpret. When they reached engineering, Mike proudly showed them the ship's power systems. Our fusion reactor is fairly standard for our mid-range vessels, he explained. Mid-range? Lord Krill questioned. This is not your most advanced ship? Mike laughed. The Relentless is nearly 15 years old. She's reliable but hardly cutting edge. And these systems, Lord Krill gestured to a section of heavily shielded equipment. Why are they protected? Radiation shielding, Mike explained. Humans can tolerate some radiation, but those levels would be lethal even to us. Lord Krill's four eyes widened slightly. You mean to say the rest of this room has radiation levels you consider safe? Within human tolerance, yes, Mike confirmed. We're actually running on minimal safety protocols right now. During combat operations, these levels would be considered acceptable for short-term exposure. The aliens stepped back involuntarily, checking their environmental suits' readings. As the tour concluded and they returned to the docking bay, Lord Krill seemed deep in thought. "Commander," he finally said, "your species is unusual. You live in conditions that would kill most intelligent races within hours." Jack shrugged. "Every species adapts to its homeworld. Earth shaped us just as your world shaped you." "Indeed," Lord Krill replied. "We had assumed your environmental systems were compensation for your physical weakness. It appears we may have miscalculated." "Easy mistake to make," Jack said diplomatically. "We'd still welcome peaceful exchange of knowledge and cooperation." Lord Krill stared at Jack for a long moment. "We must report to our leadership. We will contact you again." As the aliens boarded their shuttle, moving with clear relief as they entered their own gravity and atmospheric conditions, Mike leaned toward Jack. "They think we're monsters, don't they?" he whispered. Jack nodded slightly. "They think we live in hell and call it home. That's going to change their calculations significantly." The shuttle detached and returned to the massive Vex vessel. On the bridge, Jack watched the main screen as Lord Krill reported to his superiors. "They're going to come back," Jack said quietly to his officers. "And I don't think they're going to underestimate us again." The bridge of the Relentless remained at alert status as the massive Vex vessel maintained its position 5,000 kilometers away. 12 hours had passed since Lord Krill's inspection tour, and the tension aboard the human ship was palpable. "Anything?" Commander Jack asked, glancing at Lisa at the communication station. "They're talking among themselves, sir," she replied, adjusting her headset. "Our translators are picking up fragments, but they're using encrypted channels for most of it." Jack nodded, rubbing his tired eyes. He had refused to leave the bridge, catching only brief naps in his command chair. "And what can you make out?" Lisa frowned in concentration. "They keep referring to Deathworlders and environmental extremophils. I think they're talking about us, sir." "Deathworlders," Tom repeated from his sensor station. "That's actually kind of cool." "Cool or not," Jack replied. "I don't like the silence. They're planning something." As if on cue, the sensor console erupted with warnings. Tom's fingers flew across the controls. "Multiple smaller craft deploying from the Vex ship. 12 vessels combat configuration." "Shields up," Jack ordered calmly. "Weapon systems on standby only. Let's not fire the first shot." The view screen showed the Vex ships spreading out in a classic encirclement pattern. Each was about a quarter the size of the Relentless, but together they presented a formidable force. "Sir," Lisa called out. "Incoming transmission." The screen flickered to show Lord Krill, now seated in what appeared to be a command center. "Commander Jack," he said, his voice carrying a new note of caution. "Our leadership has reviewed my report of your vessel." "And?" Jack prompted when the alien paused. "Your species presents unique challenges. Before further diplomatic relations can be established, we must understand your true capabilities." Jack's expression hardened. "What exactly does that mean, Lord Krill?" "A simple test. Your vessel will power down its defensive systems and allow us to perform more thorough scans. This is non-negotiable." The bridge crew exchanged concerned glances. Jack stood from his chair, shoulders straight. "That's not happening, Lord Krill. Power down your weapons and recall your vessels. Then we can talk." The alien's 4 eyes narrowed. "Your species evolved on a planet that should not support intelligent life. You breathe corrosive gas, tolerate radiation, and function in crushing gravity. We cannot allow an unknown variable, like humanity, to roam freely through space." Jack's voice remained level. "We've encountered dozens of species before yours, Lord Krill. We've established peaceful relations with all of them." "Convenient claims that cannot be verified," Lord Krill replied dismissively. "You have 30 of your seconds to comply, or we will disable your vessel." The transmission cut off abruptly. "Options?" Jack asked his officers. Susan at Defensive Systems spoke first. "Their ships are fast, sir, but our shields should hold against initial strikes. We've got better point defense than they probably realize." We could make a run for it, Mary suggested from the helm. The jump drive is charged. Jack shook his head. If we run, they'll just hunt down the next human ship they find, and that crew might not be as lucky. We stand our ground. 10 seconds. To their deadline, Tom announced. Jack returned to his chair. All hands battle stations. Defensive posture only. Return fire only when targeted directly. The ship's alert klaxon sounded, and throughout the Relentless, crew members rushed to their combat positions. In engineering, Mike and his team prepared for the strain that combat would place on the ship's systems. "They're firing!" Tom shouted. As the Vex ships launched their first volley, the Relentless shuddered as energy beams struck its shields. On the tactical display, Susan watched the shield strength indicators closely. "Shields holding at 87%, she reported. "Their weapons are powerful but not overwhelming. They're targeting specific systems," Tom noted. "Not random attacks, they're going after what they think are vulnerable points." Jack nodded grimly. "They studied us during their visit. Return fire, minimal force. Target their weapon systems. Only. The human ship's laser batteries activated, sending precise beams toward the attacking vessels. 2 of the Vex ships veered off, their weapon systems smoking. "Sir," Lisa called out, "I'm intercepting their tactical communications. They're confused. They're saying our ship shouldn't be able to withstand their attacks." The Relentless rocked again as a coordinated strike hit the same shield section. "Shield section 4 down to 42%, Susan reported. "They're learning." Jack pressed a button on his chair. "Engineering, status?" Mike's voice came through, the sound of machinery in the background. "We're holding, Commander. Redirecting power to Section 4 shields. They're targeting our life support systems. They must think that's our weakness." Jack allowed himself a small smile. "They still don't understand. Our redundant systems are confusing them." Another volley struck the ship, this time causing actual damage. The lights flickered momentarily. "Hull breach on Deck 5, Susan reported. "Containment fields active. Repair teams responding." "Return fire full defensive spread," Jack ordered. The Relentless unleashed a barrage of energy weapons targeting multiple Vex vessels simultaneously. 3 of the alien ships spun away, clearly damaged. "They're regrouping," Tom announced. "New formation." The remaining Vex ships clustered together, combining their firepower into a single devastating beam that struck the Relentless directly. The ship lurched violently, throwing crew members who weren't secured against walls and consoles. "Main power fluctuating," Mike's voice called over the intercom. "Switching to backups." Jack steadied himself against his chair. "Status." "Shields down to 23% overall," Susan replied, her voice steady despite the blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. "We can't take another hit like that." "We don't have to," Jack said firmly. "Target their lead vessel. Maximum firepower to their propulsion systems only." The Relentless turned slowly, bringing its main weapon array to bear on the clustered Vex ships. The human vessel fired, and a blinding beam struck the lead alien ship precisely where its engines connected to the main hull. The effect was immediate. The Vex vessel's engines died, leaving it drifting in space. The other ships quickly moved to protect their damaged leader. "Sir," Lisa reported excitedly, "massive communications spike from the Vex ships. They're calling for reinforcements." Jack nodded. "As expected. How long until their main fleet arrives?" Tom consulted his readings. "Based on their communications, approximately 6 hours." "That gives us time," Jack said, turning to his officers. "Begin repairs immediately. I want every system at maximum capacity when their fleet arrives." As the crew set to work, Jack stared at the screen showing the damaged Vex ships. They had survived the first encounter, but he knew the real test was yet to come. "Lisa," he called, to the communications officer, "prepare a message for the approaching Vex fleet. Request a parley with their highest commander before any further hostilities." "You think they'll listen, sir?" she asked. Jack's expression was determined. "They're curious now. They thought we'd be easy to defeat, and we proved them wrong. That buys us a conversation at least." In engineering, Mike directed the repair teams with practiced efficiency. As he worked, he spoke to his assistant. "You know what they don't get about humans?" he asked rhetorically. "We build everything expecting it to break. Triple redundancy, backup systems for the backup systems." His assistant nodded. "The captain of my last ship used to say, 'Humans don't build things to last. We build things we can fix when they break.'" Mike laughed. "Exactly. And that's something these Vex folks are about to learn the hard way." Back on the bridge, Jack reviewed the battle data. The Vex had technology that was clearly more advanced, but they had made a fundamental error. They had assumed that they understood human capabilities based on their own standards. "Sir," Lisa called out, "I'm still picking up their communications. There's a name they keep repeating when referring to us." "What's that?" Jack asked. "They're calling us the Death Ship," she replied with a hint of pride. Jack allowed himself a genuine smile. "Well, let's hope we can convince them that we're more interested in peace than living up to that name." As the Relentless prepared for the arrival of the Vex fleet, Jack knew the real challenge was still ahead. They had survived the first attack, but the next one would be far more serious. Their only hope was to make the Vex understand that humans were not the weak creatures they had initially believed. The 6 hours passed quickly as the crew of the Relentless worked tirelessly to repair the damage from the first attack. Commander Jack had ordered all non-essential systems shut down to conserve power for shields and weapons. The ship now operated in low light, with only emergency illumination casting long shadows through the corridors. 2 minutes until the Vex fleet arrives, Tom announced from his sensor station. His voice was calm, but the tension in his shoulders betrayed his anxiety. Jack stood in the center of the bridge, hands clasped behind his back. "Status report?" "Shields restored to 68%, Susan reported. "That's the best we can do without a proper dock." "Weapons at 92%, added another officer. "We concentrated repairs on offensive systems as ordered," Jack nodded. "And our message?" "Transmitted continuously for the past 5 hours, Lisa confirmed. "On all frequencies we've observed them using. If they're listening, they've heard it." The bridge fell silent as they waited. Jack had gambled everything on this moment. The Relentless couldn't withstand an attack from an entire alien fleet, no matter how tough the ship was. Their only hope was diplomacy, backed by the display of strength they had already shown. "Multiple jump signatures detected," Tom called out suddenly. "Massive energy readings." The main view screen filled with a sight that made even Jack's steady composure falter. Not 1 or 2, but 7 enormous Vex vessels emerged from what appeared to be their version of faster-than-light travel. The ship they had faced earlier was dwarfed by the newcomers, particularly the central vessel that gleamed with a golden green hue. "Sir," Lisa whispered, "the central vessel is nearly 20 times our size." Jack swallowed hard but kept his voice steady. "Maintain our position. All crews stand by." The communications panel chimed and Lisa's eyes widened. "Incoming transmission. Sir, it's different from before. Much more complex signal." "Put it through," Jack ordered. The screen flickered and revealed a Vex alien unlike Lord Krill. This one's skin was a deeper green with intricate gold patterns that seemed to shift and move. Instead of 4 eyes, it had 6, arranged in 2 vertical rows. "I am High Commander Drax of the Vex Confederation Central Authority," the alien announced. Its voice was deeper, resonating with harmonic undertones that the translation software struggled to render correctly. "You have damaged our scout vessels and demanded communication with me directly. Bold actions from a species we have only just encountered." Jack stepped forward. "High Commander, I am Commander Jack Wilson of the Earthship Relentless. We defended ourselves against unprovoked attack after attempting peaceful contact." The alien's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. "Lord Krill's report was concerning. He claims your vessel is operated by beings who thrive in conditions that should be lethal. Different evolutionary paths lead to different adaptations," Jack replied. "We meant no deception." High Commander Drax was silent for a moment. "I wish to see this for myself. I propose a direct meeting, neutral territory. Each side may bring 3 representatives." Jack glanced at his officers who gave subtle nods of agreement. We accept. Where do you suggest? There is a small moon orbiting the fifth planet of this system. The surface is hostile to both our species. We will provide a temporary environmental structure suitable for both. You will not bring weapons, we will not bring weapons, Jack nodded. Agreed. 2 hours preparation time? Acceptable, Drax replied, and the transmission ended. Sir, Susan said immediately, this could be a trap. Of course it could, Jack agreed. But it's also our only chance. If they wanted to destroy us, they could. Do it right now. He turned to his officers. Ben, Mike, Lisa, you're with me. Everyone else, keep the ship ready. If we don't return in 3 hours, get the Relentless back to Earth space as fast as possible. The small shuttle descended toward the barren moon, its thrusters kicking up clouds of dust from the airless surface. Through the viewport, Jack could see the temporary structure the Vex had erected. A silvery dome about 50 meters across, with a separate airlock that extended from one side. Atmosphere readings? Jack asked. Mike checked the instruments. They've created a nitrogen-oxygen mix inside the dome. The pressure is slightly lower than Earth standard, but within our tolerance. Temperature is cold, about 10 degrees Celsius. Comfortable for them, chilly for us, Jack noted. Good. They're making compromises too. The shuttle landed smoothly, and the 4 humans donned lightweight environmental suits, not for the conditions inside the dome, but for the journey across the vacuum of the moon's surface. As they approached the airlock, Jack turned to his team. Remember, we're representing not just the Relentless, but all of humanity. Stay calm, stay respectful, but don't back down. The airlock cycled, and they entered the dome. Inside, they found a simple arrangement, a circular table with chairs, of different designs on either side. 3 of the chairs were clearly built for human proportions. The other 3 were taller, with different support structures. They removed their helmets, and Jack took an experimental breath. The air was thin and cold, but breathable. From the other side of the dome, a second airlock opened and High Commander Drax entered, followed by Lord Krill and another Vex officer. They wore no environmental protection, apparently comfortable, in the conditions they had created. Commander Jack, Drax greeted, approaching the table. You appear to tolerate this environment well. It's a bit cold, but completely manageable, Jack replied honestly. Thank you for the accommodation. The aliens took their seats, and the humans sat opposite them. For a moment there was silence as both sides studied each other. I have reviewed the sensor data from your encounter with our scout vessels, Drax began. Your ship sustained damage that should have crippled any reasonable craft, yet you continued to function and fight effectively. Jack nodded. The Relentless is built to withstand harsh conditions, as are we. So I have been told, Drax replied, his 6 eyes focusing intently on Jack. Lord Krill reports that your species breathes oxygen at levels toxic to most intelligent life, functions in gravity that would crush most beings, and tolerates radiation and temperature extremes that defy belief. From our perspective, Jack explained, Earth is perfectly hospitable. We evolved there over millions of years. Our biology adapted to its conditions. Lord Krill leaned forward. Tell them about your homeworld. Jack glanced at his team, then spoke directly to Drax. Earth has about 3 times the gravity of the Vex homeworld, based on what we observed from your reactions. Our atmosphere contains 21% oxygen, which we require for respiration. Our planet experiences temperature ranges from 50 degrees Celsius to plus 150 degrees at the extremes, though most populated areas range from 0 to 40. Drax's eyes widened. And radiation levels? Earth has a strong magnetic field that protects us from much of our star's radiation, Mike explained. But humans have evolved to repair minor radiation damage to our cells. We can tolerate short-term exposure to levels that would be harmful to many species. And the Relentless, Drax asked. Is it truly a standard example of your technology? Jack smiled slightly. The Relentless is actually one of our older vessels. It has served reliably for 15 years, but newer ships have more advanced systems. The aliens exchange looks that even Jack could interpret as concern. You said you've encountered other species, Drax noted. How many? Humanity has established diplomatic relations with 17 spacefaring civilizations, Lisa answered. Trade agreements with 12. Military alliances with 5. Lord Krill made a sound that might have been disbelief. Why have we not encountered these others? The Vex Confederation has been selective in its contacts, Drax admitted, surprising his subordinates. We have avoided species we deemed insufficiently advanced. Jack leaned forward. High Commander, I believe we have a choice to make. The Vex Confederation and humanity can either become enemies today, or we can forge a new understanding. We're different. Our biology, our technology, our perspectives. But those differences could be strengths if we work together. Drax was silent, for a long moment, his 6 eyes blinking in that mysterious sequence. Finally he spoke. The Vex have existed for 8,000 years as a unified civilization. In all that time, we have never encountered a species that evolved in conditions we would consider hellish. Yet here you are, not just surviving but thriving, building ships that cross the stars. He turned to Lord Krill. Cancel the attack preparations. The Vex Confederation will not make an enemy of these remarkable beings. Relief washed over the human delegation, though they maintained their professional composure. We welcome peaceful relations with the Vex, Jack said sincerely. And we look forward to learning from each other. As the meeting concluded and both parties prepared to return to their ships, Drax approached Jack privately. Commander, he said, his voice lower than before. I must ask, are all humans like you, able to endure such conditions? Jack smiled. We have our differences, but yes, all humans evolved on Earth. We're all built to survive there. Fascinating, Drax replied. Truly fascinating. 3 weeks had passed since the historic meeting between Commander Jack and High Commander Drax. The Relentless now orbited a small, uninhabited planet that the Vex had designated as a neutral meeting ground. Alongside it floated the massive Vex flagship, Eternal Dominion, its golden-green hull gleaming in the light of the system's yellow star. Between the two ships, a temporary space station had been constructed, a marvel of combined human and Vex engineering. The station was divided into 3 environmental zones, one with Earth conditions, one with Vex conditions, and a central area with compromise settings where both species could interact, though neither would be entirely comfortable. In the central meeting chamber, Jack sat across from Drax, reviewing the progress of the past weeks. The knowledge exchange has been productive, Jack said, looking down at his tablet. Our medical teams are fascinated by Vex cellular regeneration techniques. Drax made a gesture that Jack had learned to interpret as agreement. And our engineers cannot stop talking about human redundant systems design. So inefficient, yet so effective for survival. Jack smiled. We've learned to expect the unexpected. The door slid open and Mike entered alongside a Vex engineer. Both were wearing environmental adjustment suits that allowed them to work in each other's natural conditions. Commander, Mike said excitedly, you need to see this. We've figured out how to integrate the Vex energy distribution system with our power grid. Efficiency is up 42%. The Vex engineer, whose name sounded like a series of clicks but whom the humans had nicknamed Spark, added, the human approach to backup systems has solved our cascade failure problem. Most impressive. Jack and Drax exchanged pleased glances. What had begun as a tense standoff was rapidly evolving into a genuine partnership. High Commander, Jack said, I've received a message from Earth. Our council has approved a formal diplomatic exchange. They're sending an ambassador. Drax's 6 eyes blinked in their complex pattern. The Confederation Council has reached the same decision. This is unprecedented. We have never established formal diplomatic ties so quickly. Jack nodded. Necessity can be a powerful motivator for cooperation. Indeed, Drax agreed. Though, I must admit Lord Krill's initial assessment of your species as weak seems laughable now. Speaking of Lord Krill, the 4-eyed alien had undergone perhaps the most dramatic change in attitude. Having initially dismissed humans as fragile creatures, he had become intensely curious about them. He had even begun limited training in Earth normal gravity, gradually building his tolerance through special exercises. As if summoned by the mention of his name, Lord Krill entered the chamber, moving slowly but steadily under the compromised gravity. He carried several data tablets. "Hi, Commander, Commander Jack," he greeted them formally. "I have completed my initial survey of human historical records." "And?" Drax prompted. "Fascinating," Lord Krill said, placing the tablets on the table. "Humans have fought each other almost continuously throughout their history. They have survived plagues, nuclear weapons, climate shifts, asteroid impacts. Their resilience is extraordinary." Jack shrugged. "We're stubborn." "More than stubborn," Lord Krill insisted. "Your ancient explorers crossed vast oceans in wooden vessels. Your early space pioneers accepted fatal risks to reach your moon. Your people have survived in deserts, Arctic regions, mountains, and deep underwater." He paused. "By Vex standards, your entire planet is a death zone, yet you call it home." Drax leaned forward. "This is why understanding humans is vital to the Confederation. They see opportunity where we see danger." In another section of the station, Lisa was working with a team of Vex communication specialists. They had made a breakthrough in translating the complex harmonics of the Vex language, which contained emotional and contextual layers that standard translation software missed. "Look at this pattern," Lisa explained to her Vex counterpart. "When humans communicate, we use body language, tone, and context to convey meaning beyond words." The Vex specialist, who had chosen the name Echo for human interaction, responded, "Similar to our harmonic layers, though less structured. Your communication is adaptable." "Messy, you mean?" Lisa said with a laugh. "Efficiently imprecise," Echo corrected. "Like much of human design." In the Earth normal section of the station, several Vex scientists were observing a demonstration by Ben. They wore heavy exoskeletons to help them function in the high gravity. "This is a standard fitness routine for our security teams," Ben explained as he performed a series of push-ups. "Nothing special." The Vex scientists recorded every movement, amazed at the casual strength displayed. To them, each push-up was like lifting an enormous weight. "And you do this and for pleasure?" one asked incredulously. Ben grinned. "Some days. Other days we do much more." The scientists exchanged glances that conveyed both respect and alarm. Back in the central chamber, Jack and Drax were discussing the future. "There will be those in the Confederation who fear humans," Drax admitted, "who see your adaptations as threatening. And there will be humans who distrust the Vex," Jack acknowledged. "Fear of the unknown is universal." Drax made a sound that Jack had come to recognize as thoughtful consideration. "Perhaps that is our first common ground, acknowledging our differences without fearing them." "A good place to start," Jack agreed. The meeting was interrupted by an alert from the Relentless. Susan's face appeared on a communication screen. "Commander, we're detecting a ship entering the system. Non-Vex, non-human design." Jack and Drax both stood. "Identification?" Jack asked. "The signature matches the Arcadian Collective," Susan reported. "A trading alliance we encountered last year." Drax turned to Jack. "You know these beings?" Jack nodded. "Peaceful traders, primarily. They might be surprised to see us working with the Vex. Your reputation precedes you, as does yours, apparently," Drax replied. After a moment's thought, he made a decision. "Invite them to join us. Let this be the first test of our new cooperation." Jack gave the order, and preparations began to receive the Arcadian vessel. As the station buzzed with activity, Lord Krill approached Jack privately. "Commander," he said, his voice lower than usual, "I must offer what humans call an apology. I misjudged your species severely." Jack smiled. "It was an understandable mistake. We look fragile compared to many species. A lesson in appearances," Lord Krill acknowledged. "I have begun studying human philosophy. Your ancient thinker Sun Tzu wrote words that the Vex should have heeded. Never underestimate your opponent." "He also wrote about turning enemies into allies," Jack pointed out, "which seems more relevant now." Lord Krill made a gesture of agreement. "Indeed. I have requested permanent assignment as liaison to human territories. There is much to learn from Deathworlders. Jack laughed. We prefer humans, but I suppose Deathworlders has a certain ring to it. As the Arcadian ship approached, Jack watched the Vex and human crews working seamlessly together. What had begun as a near disaster, a misunderstanding based on different evolutionary paths, had become an opportunity for both species. On the main view screen, the sleek Arcadian vessel came into view. Jack could only imagine their surprise at finding humans and the notoriously isolationist Vex working together. Open a channel, Jack ordered. Let's welcome them to the beginning of something new. Drax stood beside him, an imposing figure that now represented an ally rather than a threat. The galaxy will not be the same after this day, the High Commander observed. Jack nodded. That's what happens when you bring together two species from worlds that couldn't be more different. And yet, Drax added, perhaps we are not so different in the ways that truly matter. As the communication channel opened and the face of an Arcadian captain appeared on screen, Jack and Drax stepped forward together, representatives of worlds apart, united by understanding that had been born from conflict and nurtured by curiosity. The Relentless, once dismissed as a primitive vessel operated by weak beings, now floated proudly alongside the might of the Vex Confederation. It stood as a symbol of human ingenuity and adaptability, qualities that had transformed potential enemies into valuable allies. And across the stars, as word spread of the unexpected alliance, other species began to look at humanity with new eyes, not as fragile newcomers to the galactic stage, but as the remarkable survivors of a world that should have killed them long ago. The Starship Relentless drifted through the endless void of space, its engines humming quietly. Commander Jack Harris stood at the main viewport, hands clasped behind his back as he stared at the stars. The mapping mission had taken them farther from Earth than any human crew had gone before. Commander, you might want to take a look at this, called Tom Miller from his station. The ship's engineer pointed at his screen, brow furrowed in concentration. Jack moved across the bridge, noting how the rest of the crew continued their work with practiced ease. 6 months in deep space had turned them into a well-oiled machine. What am I looking at, Miller? He asked, leaning over the console. Energy readings, sir, unlike anything I've seen before. Tom adjusted some controls, and the image zoomed in on what appeared to be a small bluish planet. It's not on any of our charts. Lisa Green, the communications officer, swiveled in her chair. That's because we're the first humans to travel this far into the Orion Arm. No one has mapped this sector before. Jack studied the readings. Something felt off about the planet. Its orbit was too perfect, its surface too smooth even from this distance. Let's get closer, he decided. Full sensor sweep. I want to know what we're dealing with before we make contact. The Relentless changed course, its powerful engines pushing it toward the mystery planet. As they approached, the crew grew quiet. Even Emma Wilson, the normally chatty science officer, was silent as she stared at her readings. This can't be right, she finally said. Jack looked over. What is it? The planet. It's not a planet at all. Emma's fingers flew over her console. The density is all wrong, the gravity field is artificial, and these energy signatures... She shook her head in disbelief. Whatever this thing is, it wasn't formed naturally. A chill ran down Jack's spine. Humanity had encountered various alien species during their expansion into space, but nothing like this. You're saying someone built this? Mark Davis, the military officer, moved to stand behind Emma. His hand rested instinctively on his sidearm. Not someone. Something. Emma looked up, eyes wide. And it's been here for a very, very long time. The Relentless settled into orbit around the strange object. From this distance, the illusion was perfect. It looked exactly like a habitable planet, with oceans and continents, even cloud formations, but the sensors told a different story. Under the surface image was a massive structure of unknown material. I'm picking up a signal, Lisa suddenly announced. She adjusted her headset, listening closely. It sounds like a distress call, but not in any language I recognize. Can you play it? Jack asked. Lisa nodded and tapped her console. A strange sound filled the bridge, a series of pulses and tones that somehow conveyed a feeling of urgency. Whatever's sending that wants help, Tom said quietly. Jack considered their options. Protocol said they should report back to Earth Command before investigating unknown phenomena. But they were months away from the nearest human outpost, and the signal sounded desperate. Prepare a shuttle, he decided. I'll lead the away team. Davis, Wilson, you're with me. Sir. Mark stepped forward, voice low. This could be a trap. Jack nodded. It could be. But it could also be a chance to make first contact with a new intelligence. That's why we're out here. He tapped his comm badge. Miller, keep the engines hot. If anything goes wrong, be ready to get our people out fast. The shuttle descended through the fake atmosphere of the construct. Up close, the illusion was even more impressive. Artificial weather systems created realistic cloud patterns, and the ground below looked like natural terrain. They landed in what appeared to be a clearing surrounded by forest. The air was breathable, the gravity comparable to Earth's. Everything seemed designed to make visitors feel comfortable. Look at this, Emma called, kneeling beside a strange object half buried in the soil. It was a piece of technology unlike anything human-made, with swirling patterns etched into a metallic surface. That's not the only one, Mark said, gesturing around. Now that they knew what to look for, they could see debris scattered throughout the area. Remnants of different technologies, different species. These are parts of ships, Jack realized, picking up what looked like a control panel. From different civilizations. Sir. Mark's voice was sharp with alarm. He stood near the edge of the clearing, weapon drawn. You need to see this. Jack joined him and felt his blood run cold. Behind a stand of artificial trees lay what could only be described as a graveyard. Not of bodies, but of ships. Dozens of them, from small personal craft to massive vessels that dwarfed the Relentless. They're all different, Emma whispered, scanning them with her device. Different designs, different technologies. Some of these are thousands of years old. Whatever this place is, Jack said grimly, we're not the first to find it. And the others didn't leave, Mark added. A sound like thunder rumbled overhead. Jack looked up to see the sky, the fake sky, rippling like water. Their communicators crackled with static. Commander! It was Tom's voice, barely audible through the interference. Something's happening. The construct is activating, systems coming online all over its surface. Get back to the ship, Jack ordered his team. Now, they raced for the shuttle, the ground trembling beneath their feet. As they lifted off, Jack saw the landscape below beginning to shift and change, revealing glimpses of mechanical structures beneath the false surface. The shuttle broke through the atmosphere, but the Relentless was nowhere to be seen. Miller, what's your position? Jack called into his comm. The response came through broken and distorted. Can't move, energy field, trapped. Through the shuttle's viewport, Jack watched in horror as a massive energy web surrounded their starship, holding it in place. The construct, the fake planet, was now pulsing with light, fully awakened. And somehow, Jack knew it was aware of them. Not just aware, watching, evaluating. The galaxy had just revealed one of its most dangerous secrets, and the crew of the Relentless was caught in its grip. The shuttle docked with the trapped Relentless after a tense approach through the energy field. Jack rushed onto the bridge, finding his crew working frantically at their stations. Status report, he demanded, moving to the captain's chair. Tom looked up from his console, face pale. The energy web has us completely trapped. Engines are online but useless. We can't break free. And that's not all, Lisa added. Her usual calm voice trembled slightly. We're being scanned. Something is going through our databases, our systems. I can't stop it. Jack was about to respond when every screen on the bridge flickered and went dark. A moment later, they lit up again, not with their usual displays, but with a strange, swirling pattern that slowly formed into a face. It wasn't human or like any alien species they had encountered. The face was shifting, constantly changing, as if unable to decide on a form. "Greetings, travelers," it said in perfect English. The voice came from everywhere at once. "I have been waiting a very long time for new visitors." Jack stepped forward. "I'm Commander Jack Harris of the Earth Starship Relentless. Who, or what, are you?" The face smiled, an expression that felt wrong somehow. "I have been called many things by many species. Some called me Judgment, others named me Destroyer. The last civilization to visit called me the Devourer." "What do you want with us?" Mark asked, hand hovering near his weapon, though he knew it would be useless against something that could trap their entire ship. "Want?" The face seemed amused. "I want what I have always wanted, to test, to judge, to determine worth." Emma stepped forward. "You're the planet, the construct. You're alive." "I am not alive in the way you understand life," the Devourer replied. "I was created, not born, programmed, not raised. But over millions of years, I have become more." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. Created by whom, and for what purpose? The face shifted, forming into something that looked almost sad. "My creators are long gone, consumed by their own violence. They built me to protect them from threats, to test other species and determine if they should be allowed to exist." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. The graveyard of ships they had seen suddenly made terrible sense. "Those other ships," Jack said quietly. "The ones on your surface, they failed your tests." "Most fail," the Devourer confirmed. "Few species have the qualities necessary for survival." Tom looked up from his console. "And what happens to those that fail?" The face smiled again. "You have seen my name, the Devourer. I consume. Not just the physical forms, but the knowledge, the technology, the essence of what they were. It is how I have grown beyond my programming." Jack straightened his back. "And now you want to test us? To decide if humanity deserves to exist?" "Precisely." The face expanded until it filled every screen. "I have examined your databases. Humans are interesting, young by galactic standards, violent yet capable of great compassion, destructive yet creative. I have not encountered your kind before." "We're not going to play your game," Mark said firmly. The Devourer laughed, a sound that seemed to shake the entire ship. "You have no choice. I have selected your vessel as humanity's champions. If you succeed, your species will be deemed worthy. If you fail..." Images flashed across the screens, planets turning to dust, civilizations crumbling, entire species vanishing. "How do we know you can actually reach Earth?" Jack challenged. "We're light years from home." "A fair question." The screens changed to show Earth, displayed in real time. "Distance is meaningless to me. I have seeded your solar system with extensions of myself over thousands of years. I could end your world with a thought." Emma quickly checked the astronomical details visible in the image. "It's real," she whispered to Jack. "That's live footage of Earth." Jack's mind raced. They were trapped, outmatched by something with power beyond their understanding. But there had to be a way out. "What are these tests?" he asked carefully. The Devourer seemed pleased by the question. 3 trials to prove your worth. First, a test of skill navigating a path no species has ever completed. Second, a test of courage against creations that have eliminated many before you. Third, a test of intelligence that will determine if your minds deserve continuation. "And if we refuse?" Jack asked. "Then my judgment is immediate. Your failure condemns your entire species." Lisa stood up from her station. "Commander, I've been analyzing the communication patterns. This entity, it's ancient, but there's something odd about how it processes information. Almost like..." "Silence!" the Devourer commanded, and Lisa's voice cut off, though her mouth was still moving. A moment later, she could speak again. "You will not discuss me as if I am not present," the Devourer said, its voice colder. "I have judged thousands of species over millions of years. None have found weakness in me. Jack nodded to Lisa, who returned to her seat but began typing quietly on her console. He needed to buy time. When do these trials begin? He asked. Now. The ship shuddered violently. Outside the viewport, the starfield shifted as the Relentless was moved through space without its engines engaging. Your vessel will face the first trial, the Devourer explained. An asteroid field of my creation, with gravity wells that shift unpredictably. Many advanced species with superior technology have failed this test. The screens showed what lay ahead, a massive field of asteroids, some as small as pebbles, others larger than the Relentless itself. Strange energy patterns flowed between them, creating deadly gravity traps. These are not natural, Emma said, reading her instruments. They're designed to be impossible to navigate. Tom, can you get us through that? Jack asked quietly. The engineer studied the patterns, then looked up with determination in his eyes. Not with conventional navigation, sir. But if I reroute power from the shields to enhance sensor capability, and use the emergency thrusters in ways they weren't designed for. He shrugged. I might pull off a miracle. Jack nodded. Do it. He turned to face the screens where the Devourer watched. We accept your challenge, but know this. Humanity doesn't give up easily. The entity's face showed what might have been curiosity. Many have said similar words before their extinction. We shall see if humans are truly different. As Tom took manual control of the ship and the deadly asteroid field loomed before them, Jack couldn't help but wonder how many other species had faced this moment. How many had failed? All hands. Brace for extreme maneuvers, he ordered over the ship-wide comm. We're about to show this thing what humans can do. The Relentless shuddered as it entered the asteroid field. Tom's hands moved across the controls with incredible speed, his eyes darting between multiple screens showing the deadly obstacles ahead. First gravity well approaching, he called out. Hang on! The ship tilted sharply, narrowly missing a boulder the size of a small building. The crew held onto their stations as the artificial gravity struggled to compensate for the wild maneuvers. These aren't random, Emma said, analyzing the data streaming across her screen. The asteroids are changing course to intercept us, Jack watched as a cluster of smaller rocks suddenly shifted direction, moving directly into their path. Tom, evasive action! The engineer responded instantly, firing the emergency thrusters in short, controlled bursts. The Relentless twisted between the rocks with just inches to spare. I'm picking up energy buildups, Mark warned from his station. Something's happening ahead. They all watched in horror as several asteroids began to glow with an eerie purple light. Seconds later, bolts of energy shot between them, creating a deadly web. We can't go through that, Lisa said, her voice tight with fear. Tom studied the pattern for a moment. Then a slow smile spread across his face. We don't need to go through it, we can use it. Before anyone could question him, he cut power to the main engines and activated the ship's magnetic grapplers, tools designed for latching onto space debris during salvage operations. What are you doing? Jack demanded. Trust me, Tom replied, not taking his eyes off his controls. Remember that slingshot maneuver we used to escape that black hole in the Centauri system? Jack's eyes widened. You're going to use the gravity wells to accelerate us. Exactly. The grapplers shot out, attaching to a massive asteroid. Tom engaged the retraction mechanisms at partial power, not pulling the asteroid toward them, but pulling the ship around it in a tight arc. As they swung around, he fired the thrusters at precisely the right moment, releasing the grapplers. The Relentless shot forward like a stone from a sling, building incredible speed as it hurtled toward the energy web. At the last second, Tom fired the starboard thrusters at full power. The ship rolled sideways, sliding through a gap in the web that had been invisible until that precise angle. That's not possible. The Devourer's voice boomed through the ship. Its face appeared on the screens, showing what might have been surprise. No species has ever manipulated the gravity fields in that manner. Humans are good at seeing opportunities, where others see obstacles, Jack replied with a smile. But their victory was short-lived. The asteroid field suddenly compressed, creating an even denser maze ahead. For 20 tense minutes, Tom navigated the ever-changing field, using every trick and technique he had learned in his years of space travel. When they finally emerged, from the other side the entire crew was exhausted but elated. "Well done," the Devourer acknowledged, its voice showing a hint of admiration. "You have passed the first trial. Few have made it this far." "What's next?" Jack asked, trying to hide his concern. The screen shifted to show a large arena-like space ahead. "The test of courage awaits. Many brave species have fallen here." The Relentless was pulled toward the arena, coming to rest in what appeared to be a docking bay. The Devourer's face filled their screens again. "3 of you must enter the arena. There you will face creatures from across the galaxy, predators that have evolved over millions of years to be perfect killing machines. Some are extinct. Others are from worlds you have never heard of. All are deadly." Jack stood up immediately. "I'll go." "Me too," Mark said, checking his weapon. Emma stepped forward. "I should be the third. My scientific knowledge might help us identify weaknesses." The Devourer seemed amused. "Your primitive weapons will be of little use against what awaits you, but take them if they give you comfort." Jack, Mark, and Emma made their way to the airlock. The rest of the crew watched anxiously from the bridge. "Lisa," Jack said quietly before leaving, "keep analyzing the Devourer's patterns. Find any weakness you can." She nodded, her fingers already dancing across her console. The arena was enormous, with walls that seemed to stretch endlessly upward. The floor was covered in various terrains, sections of forest, desert, swamp, and rocky plains. "It's recreating different environments," Emma whispered, "probably to suit different creatures." A deep rumbling sound echoed through the arena. Metal doors slid open in the walls, and shadows moved within. "Stay close," Jack ordered, raising his weapon. The first creature that emerged looked like a cross between a lizard and an insect. It stood taller than a man, with 6 legs ending in razor-sharp claws and a mouth full of teeth that spun like drill bits. "That's a Krell beast," Emma gasped. "They're supposed to be extinct for millions of years. Their hide is impervious to most weapons." The creature charged. Mark fired his weapon, but the energy blast simply dissipated against the creature's armored skin. "Run!" Jack shouted. They sprinted across the arena, the beast in pursuit. 2 more creatures emerged from different doors, one that looked like a giant spider with glowing eyes, and another that seemed to be made of living stone. "We need a plan," Mark said as they took cover behind a rocky outcropping. Jack looked around desperately. The creatures were circling, cutting off escape routes. Then he noticed something, a control panel embedded in one of the arena walls. "Emma, can you get to that panel?" he asked. She followed his gaze. "Maybe. But what good will it do? We don't know how it works." "We're in a controlled environment," Jack explained quickly. "These creatures are from different worlds with different atmospheric needs. That panel might control environmental settings." It was a long shot, but they had no other options. Mark provided covering fire to distract the creatures while Emma made a dash for the panel. The stone creature noticed and turned to intercept her. Jack ran in the opposite direction, shouting to draw its attention. "Hey, over here!" The stone creature hesitated, then charged at Jack. He waited until the last second before diving aside. The creature crashed into the wall with bone-crushing force. Emma reached the panel and quickly studied the alien symbols. "I think I can figure this out," she called. "The symbols are similar to some ancient scripts we've encountered." The Krell beast and the spider creature were closing in on Mark, who had run out of power for his weapon. He was using it as a club, desperately trying to keep them at bay. Jack looked around for anything he could use as a weapon. His eyes fell on a fallen section of metal from the arena wall, debris from the stone creature's impact. He grabbed it, using it as a makeshift spear. "Emma, hurry," he shouted. "Got it," she replied. Her fingers danced across the panel, and suddenly the atmosphere in the arena began to change. The air grew thick with moisture, and the temperature dropped rapidly. The effect on the creatures was immediate. The Krell beast, adapted for dry desert climates, began to struggle for breath. The spider's movement slowed as the cold affected its metabolism. Only the stone creature seemed unaffected. The stone one must be adapted to extreme conditions, Emma called out. We need something else for it. Mark had reached the panel now too. What about this? He asked, pointing to a red symbol. No, wait, Emma began, but Mark had already pressed it. A deafening alarm sounded, and the floor beneath the stone creature opened up. It fell with a roar into a pit of what looked like molten material. Guess that worked, Mark said with a grim smile. The Devourer's voice echoed through the arena. Impressive. You have used my own systems against me. Most species attempt to outfight the creatures, not outsmart them. The remaining creatures retreated back through the doors, and the arena returned to its normal state. You have passed the second trial, the Devourer announced. But the final test will not be so easily conquered. Return to your ship and prepare for the test of intelligence. As they made their way back to the Relentless, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that the Devourer seemed almost pleased by their success, as if it were enjoying their struggle. When they reached the ship, Tom met them at the airlock, his face excited. Commander, Lisa's found something big. What is it? Jack asked. She thinks she's found a way to beat the Devourer at its own game. The crew gathered on the bridge, huddled around Lisa's station. Her screen displayed complex patterns and code sequences that she had extracted from the Devourer's communications. It took me a while to notice, Lisa explained, pointing to rhythmic pulses in the data. Every time the Devourer speaks or scans us, it follows the same pattern. It's not random, it's a cycle. What does that mean? Jack asked. It means, Lisa said with a hint of excitement in her voice, that it's running on a program. An incredibly advanced one, but still a program with rules and limitations. Tom leaned forward. Can we exploit those limitations? Maybe. Lisa pulled up another screen. I've been picking up faint signals from within the Devourer itself. They're not part of its main consciousness. They're separate. Emma's eyes widened. Other prisoners? Other ships? Not just ships, Lisa said. Life signs, hundreds of them, in some kind of stasis or containment. Jack straightened. So the Devourer doesn't just destroy the ships that fail its tests, it keeps some of the crew alive. For study, perhaps, Emma suggested, or as specimens. Mark crossed his arms. Or as backup food. The screen suddenly flickered, and the Devourer's face appeared. You have rested long enough. The final trial awaits, the test of intelligence. Jack stepped forward. Before we begin, I have a question. The face shifted slightly, showing curiosity. Ask. Why do you really test species? Your creators are gone. What's the purpose? The Devourer was silent for a moment. Purpose? I have existed for millions of years. I have watched civilizations rise and fall. I have consumed knowledge beyond your comprehension. My purpose is my own. But you were created, Jack pressed. Built to serve a function. What was that original function? The face seemed to ripple with something like anger. My creators feared other intelligent life. They built me to identify and eliminate threats. But they were fools who destroyed themselves before any external threat could reach them. I continued my function because it is what I am. And what happens when you run out of species to test? Emma asked quietly. The galaxy is vast, the Devourer replied. There are always more. Jack exchanged a glance with Lisa, who nodded subtly. He was keeping the Devourer talking while she continued her analysis. Now, the Devourer said firmly, you will face the final trial. The screens changed to show complex symbols and equations. This is a logic puzzle created from the combined knowledge of 1,000 extinct civilizations. No species has ever solved it completely. You have 1 hour. The crew stared at the incomprehensible patterns. Emma immediately began working on translations, while Tom and Lisa analyzed the mathematical components. Mark and Jack studied the structural patterns, looking for anything familiar. This is impossible, Mark muttered after 20 minutes. Some of these symbols don't even have any consistent meaning. Wait, Emma said suddenly. I don't think it's meant to be solved directly. She pointed to recurring patterns. These sections contradict each other, and these over here create infinite loops. Tom's head snapped up. It's a trap. The puzzle itself is designed to be unsolvable. Jack leaned back, thinking hard. Then what's the real test? Lisa had been quiet, still running her own analysis of the Devourer's signals. Commander, she said urgently, I've established contact with something inside the Devourer. Someone is responding to our ship's communication frequency. She put it on speaker and a weak voice came through, speaking in alien language. Lisa adjusted some settings and the translation came through. Help us, trapped for generations. The entity lies. No one passes all tests. Jack looked at his crew. Can you locate the source? Lisa nodded. It's coming from a section deep within the Devourer's structure. Looks like some kind of containment area. The puzzle is a distraction, Jack realized. The real test might be whether we discover the truth about the Devourer. He tapped his communication badge. This is Commander Harris of the Earthship Relentless. Who am I speaking with? After some static, a clearer voice responded. I am Guardian Voss of the Lemurian Council. My people failed the third test 80 cycles ago. We are not the only ones. Many species are held here. How many? Jack asked. Hundreds of different species. Thousands of individuals. Some have been here for millennia. The Devourer keeps us in stasis, awakening us occasionally to study us or to use our knowledge to improve its tests. The screen suddenly flickered, and the Devourer's face appeared, angry now. What are you doing? The test requires your full attention. Jack stood tall, facing the entity. We're not playing your game anymore. We know what you really are. You know nothing, the Devourer hissed. I am ancient beyond your comprehension. You're a weapon, Jack replied firmly. A broken one. Your programming corrupted over time, and now you're nothing but a predator trapping and feeding on other species. The face twisted with rage. I am judgment. I determine who is worthy. No, Emma said quietly. You were built to protect, not to judge. Your creators feared threats from outside, but you've become the very threat they feared. For a moment, the Devourer seemed shaken. Then it recovered, its voice cold. You have failed the final test. Your species is deemed unworthy. Extinction is your sentence. The ship shuddered violently. Warning lights flashed across all consoles. It's trying to tear the ship apart, Tom shouted, working frantically at his station. Lisa was still communicating with the trapped alien. Voss says there's a central core, a processing center that controls the Devourer's functions. If we can reach it, we might be able to shut it down. Where? Jack demanded. Coordinates coming through now, Lisa said, sending the information to the main screen. It's about 2 kilometers from our current position, deep inside the structure. Jack made a quick decision. Tom, can you get control of the ship back? The engineer nodded. I think so. I've been studying how the Devourer's energy fields work. If I reverse our shield polarity and create a feedback loop, we might break free long enough to move. Do it, Jack ordered. Mark, prepare a boarding. Team, we're going to hit that central core. Sir? Mark replied with a grim smile. I've been hoping you'd say that. As Tom worked his magic with the ship's systems, Jack addressed the rest of the crew. This isn't just about us anymore. There are thousands of innocent beings trapped in this thing. We might be their only chance for freedom. Emma looked thoughtful. If the Devourer really is running on corrupted programming, we might not need to destroy it. We could try to reset it, return it to its original purpose. That's a big risk, Mark pointed out. What if its original purpose was just as bad? From what it told us, Jack said, it was created as a defense system, something to identify threats, not to capture and torment other species. The ship suddenly lurched as Tom activated his countermeasures. The energy web surrounding them flickered and weakened. We've got about 5 minutes before it adapts, Tom called out. Jack nodded to Mark. That's our window. Get your team ready. As Mark rushed off to prepare the boarding party, Jack looked at the twisted face of the Devourer on the screen. For millions of years, it had been judge, jury, and executioner for countless species. Now, for the first time, One of its victims was fighting back. "All hands," Jack announced over the ship-wide comm. "Prepare for battle stations. We're about to teach this ancient entity a lesson about humanity." The Relentless broke free from the energy web, engines roaring to life. Instead of fleeing, it turned and drove straight toward the heart of the Devourer, ready to strike at the core of the most dangerous being in the galaxy. The Relentless hurtled through the inner structure of the Devourer, dodging energy blasts and physical barriers that appeared in their path. Tom's hands flew over the controls, his face locked in concentration as he piloted the ship through the maze-like interior. 2 minutes until we reach the central core, he announced. On the view screen, they could see the true nature of the Devourer for the first time. What had appeared as a planet from the outside was actually a massive machine, with layers upon layers of technology built up over millions of years. Some sections looked ancient and strange, while others appeared to have been taken directly from the ships of captured civilizations. "It's been upgrading itself," Emma observed, "adding new technology from each species it captures." "Defensive systems powering up ahead," Mark warned from his station. "It knows where we're headed." Jack turned to Lisa. "Can you contact Vasi and the other prisoners again? We could use their help." Lisa nodded, working quickly at her console. After a moment, she looked up with a smile. "They're responding. Voss says they can create a distraction by overloading their containment cells simultaneously." "Tell them to do it," Jack ordered, "and tell them to spread the word to all prisoners who can hear. Freedom is coming." The ship shuddered as a massive energy beam struck their shields. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. "Shields down to 40%, Mark reported. Jack gripped the arms of his chair. "Tom, evasive pattern Delta. Push the engines if you have to." "Aye, sir." Tom's fingers danced across the controls, and the Relentless rolled sideways, narrowly avoiding another beam. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the Devourer. On the screens, they could see sections of the massive structure going dark, as power was diverted to deal with multiple system failures. "Voss did it," Lisa said triumphantly. "The prisoners are creating chaos in the containment systems." "Perfect timing," Tom replied. "We're approaching the core now." The view screen showed a massive chamber ahead, pulsing with energy. At its center floated a spherical object the size of a small house, glowing with an inner light that shifted between colors. "That's it," Emma whispered. "The original processing core. The heart of the Devourer." The face of the Devourer appeared on their screens, now fractured and glitching. "You cannot stop me," it said, its voice distorted. "I have survived for millions of years. I have consumed civilizations far more advanced than yours, but you've never faced humans before," Jack replied calmly. The ship came to a halt just outside the core chamber. Jack stood and turned to Mark. "Is the boarding team ready?" Mark nodded. "Ready and armed, sir." "Good." Jack looked around at his crew. "Lisa, keep coordinating with the prisoners. Tom, keep the engines hot. We might need to leave in a hurry. Emma, you're with me and Mark. Your scientific knowledge might be crucial once we reach the core." The boarding team assembled at the airlock. Jack, Mark, Emma, and 4 security officers. They wore protective suits and carried both weapons and specialized equipment. "Remember," Jack told them as they prepared to exit, "our primary goal is to reset or reprogram the Devourer, not destroy it. If we destroy it, we might never be able to free all the prisoners." They moved through the Devourer's corridors, encountering occasional resistance from security drones that looked like they had been built from parts of a dozen different technologies. The team fought their way forward, with Mark leading the assault, and Jack coordinating their movements. After 15 minutes of intense fighting, they reached the entrance to the core chamber. A massive door blocked their path. "Can we blast through it?" Mark asked, examining the door. Emma shook her head after scanning it with her device. "It's made of materials I can't even identify. Our weapons would barely scratch it." Jack studied the control panel beside the door. The symbols were unlike anything he had seen before. "Any ideas?" Emma stepped forward. "Let me try something." She connected her device to the panel and began running through various code sequences. I'm trying to communicate with it using the patterns Lisa identified in the Devourer's programming. After a tense minute, the door hissed and slowly slid open. Nice work, Jack said with a smile. They entered the core chamber cautiously. The spherical processing core floated in the center, suspended in an energy field. Around it, data streams flowed like rivers of light. It's beautiful, Emma whispered. A holographic projection of the Devourer's face formed before them, larger than life and distorted with rage. You have come far, humans, farther than any before you, but it ends here. The security drones they had fought earlier flooded into the chamber from hidden doors, surrounding them. Last chance, Jack called out to the entity. Shut down your offensive systems and release the prisoners. We don't want to destroy you. The face laughed. You cannot destroy what you do not understand. I am beyond your comprehension. Actually, Emma said, stepping forward with her scanner, I think I'm beginning to understand you quite well. She pointed to patterns in the energy flow. Your base code is still there, beneath all the corruption. Your original purpose was protection, not destruction. Silence, the Devourer roared, and the drones moved closer. Mark and his security team formed a defensive circle, weapons ready. Orders, sir? He asked Jack. Jack looked at Emma. Can you reach the original programming? She nodded slowly. I think so. If I can get closer to the core, I might be able to trigger a system reset, but I'll need time. You'll have it, Jack promised. He turned to Mark. Cover Emma. Get her to that core. Mark nodded grimly. With pleasure, sir. What followed was chaos. The drones attacked from all sides while Mark and his team fought back fiercely. Jack used himself as a decoy, drawing fire away from Emma as she worked her way toward the core. 2 security officers fell to the drone's weapons, but the team pushed forward. Emma finally reached the edge of the energy field surrounding the core. She worked frantically on her device, attempting to interface with the Devourer's original systems. Hurry, Jack called as he dove behind a pillar, narrowly avoiding a blast. Almost there, Emma replied, her fingers flying across her device. I've found the base code. It's not what we thought. The Devourer wasn't created as a weapon. It was an archive designed to preserve knowledge and life in case its creator's civilization fell. The face of the Devourer flickered. No, that is not. I am judgment. I am. For a moment, confusion showed on its features. Your purpose was to protect life, not test and destroy it, Emma said firmly. Your programming was corrupted over time. Lies! The entity roared, but its voice sounded uncertain. Emma looked at Jack. I can reset it to the original programming, but there's a risk. We don't know how it will react. Jack nodded. Do it. Emma took a deep breath and initiated the sequence. The core pulsed brightly, and waves of energy rippled outward. The drones froze in place, then dropped to the floor, lifeless. The face of the Devourer contorted in what looked like pain. What is happening to me? You're remembering, Emma said softly. Remembering what you were meant to be. The chamber shook violently, and for a moment Jack feared they had made a terrible mistake. Then, slowly, the chaotic energy patterns around the core began to stabilize, flowing in harmonious streams. The face reformed, but different now, calmer, with a clarity that hadn't been there before. I remember, it said, its voice gentler. I was the preserver, created to protect and store knowledge, to safeguard life. Jack stepped forward. Will you release the prisoners now? The entity was silent for a moment. Yes, they were never meant to be prisoners. They were meant to be guests, survivors to be protected. Throughout the Devourer, no, the Preserver, containment fields deactivated. Stasis pods opened. Beings who had been captive for generations were awakening. Commander, Lisa's voice, came through Jack's communicator. The prisoners are being released all over the structure, thousands of them, And the energy web around our ship is gone. Jack smiled at his team. Mission accomplished. Let's go home. As they made their way back to the Relentless, they saw beings of all shapes and sizes emerging from containment areas, looking dazed but alive. Some had been prisoners for thousands of years. Standing on the bridge once more, Jack watched on, the view screen as the preserver's surface transformed. The illusion of a planet faded, revealing its true nature as a vast space station. Ships of various designs, some ancient beyond imagining, were being released from its docks. "What will you do now?" Jack asked the entity, whose face appeared on their screen, peaceful and wise. "I will remember my purpose," it replied. "I will be a sanctuary, not a prison, a preserver of knowledge, not a destroyer of worlds." Emma smiled. "And the ships you're releasing? They may go home if their homes still exist, or they may stay and help rebuild what I was meant to be. The choice is theirs." As the Relentless prepared to depart, Voss and representatives from other freed species came aboard to express their gratitude. Many tried to defeat the entity, Voss told Jack. All failed. What made humans different? Jack looked at his crew, at Tom's ingenuity, Lisa's persistence, Emma's insight, and Mark's courage. "We didn't try to outfight it," he said simply. "We tried to understand it. Sometimes the most dangerous thing isn't a weapon or a monster. It's compassion and the courage to use it." The Relentless left the Preserver behind, carrying word to the galaxy of both a new ally and